Welcome back. This is episode 4 of the Grow in the Business podcast. Today we're talking about the platforms for your business, websites, in-person market, the differences between the websites and the ones that we use personally. I'm Rebecca, an artisan jeweler.
I'm Jackie, a crochet business owner and YouTuber. We both actually sell online, but on different platforms and in person at markets. So if you're looking for information on where to set up your business, this episode is going to be for you.
2 platforms that we use that we both have experience in, or 3 platforms actually, are Etsy, Shopify, and Squarespace. We have our own varying opinions about them, but we're going to come to you with the information that we have. Do you want to start off with what you use and why?
Okay, yes. I have experience both with Etsy and Squarespace. Etsy is my go-to that I personally recommend to everybody who's starting out with a handmade business because the barrier to entry is pretty low. Etsy has now a one-time $15 fee that you pay, and then after that, you pretty much only pay money when you make a sale. So there are fees associated with that, and I do recommend that you read up on the fees and have a firm understanding of if you price your thing for this much, how much of that money you're actually going to get for that sale. And be sure to take into account things like shipping and shipping materials, because I see a lot of people bash Etsy for not being profitable when it's, put simply, comes down to not pricing effectively for the Etsy platform.
Side question, did you, as somebody who was already on Etsy before the fees took place, have to pay that fee, or were you already integrated?
Grandfathered in, yes. Okay. So I do not have to pay that for my current shop. If I wanted to split up my current shop, which has both finished crochet products and crochet patterns, if I wanted to separate and I made another one to just make one finish makes and one patterns, I would, I'm pretty sure, have to pay that fee because I'm a new shop owner in their eyes. But yes, as it currently stands with my one shop, I am grandfathered in. And as far as their fees go, there's a 20-cent listing fee. So when you list an item, you pay that. And then from there, it's only when you make sales. Well, I guess the listing fee renews every 4 months. Or you can choose to renew it manually. And you'll pay that 20 cents on that one listing every 4 months. So in 1 year, you'll pay less than $1 for that one listing. But then if you sell something, there's a 6.5 transaction fee, a 3% processing fee, which is going to be the similar across other selling platforms like Shopify and Squarespace, and we'll get into that. Mm-hmm. And then there's an extra 10 cents just because, I think. Don't know what that's for. I just price for profit, and I take these fees into consideration when I set my prices. And in my category, even when I had my jam and jelly business, and now I am one of the highest priced people, but I still get sales. Please let that sink in and not let that scare you away from pricing effectively.
To add on to that and kind of clarify, pricing for profit is not a negative or a bad thing. It's something that I've had talks with many business owners, Jacki yourself included, and people have also talked to me about. Pricing for profit is what's necessary to grow your business and to continue having a business. If you're not pricing for profit, you will not exist for very long. I hate to say it, but you can't skid by very far when you're not pricing to actually grow and to gain and to bring more pieces in. On the further note, though, to continue our conversation going, I use Shopify for my business platform. I've used Etsy in the past. It's not my main go-to.
She's not a huge fan of the Etsy.
I'm not a huge fan of the Etsy, and I'm pretty vocal about it, but not in a bad way. I don't think there's anything wrong.
We both completely disagree with the other person, but yes, it's totally fine if you're pro Etsy. It's totally fine if you're anti Etsy. I have my reasons why I think her reasons are wrong. But, that's about as far as it goes.
It's definitely experience-based. I was on Etsy long before many people who are probably watching this video have been, and I've been off Etsy for a very, very long time. I've had my Shopify for a very long time. I did build my own website through Shopify, and I enjoy it as a platform. It has a lot of integration techniques. It's very easy to transfer listings from Square, from Etsy, or from any other platform over to Shopify.
I just learned this, too, that you can... There's a way to, and maybe we'll do a separate tutorial at some point. Let us know if you want that, where you can basically download your Etsy data and upload it to Shopify, and then it'll just put all those products in your store.
Yes.
I did not know that was a thing. So when I tried Shopify, I found it very confusing, but perhaps had I known that was a thing, it might have been less confusing.
Well, and I mean, somewhat in my defense, because I've heard that often, it's not the first thing I think to tell other people. We are handmade business owners who have done a lot of our own research.
I had my own other issue with Shopify, which I had a negative personally experience with them as far as I gave them money. I don't feel like I got what I paid for. And then, so I tried to ask for my money back, and it was a negative thing. And I was told I could get my money back by one person and then not by another person. So, like, my experience, I think, is, like, not the norm. So I have personal qualms, but, like, I won't get into, like, specifics because it's unnecessary. But just, like, know that, like, sometimes things happen.
Things do happen, and honestly,
based on the love for Shopify, I feel like I might have been just dealing with some dumb people that day. I don't know.
Well, I can share like a similar story with Etsy. That's one of the reasons that I didn't continue with Etsy is when I was a regular seller on Etsy, they had a glitch in their system that turned on ads for them, and it was when they were very new with ads. They did not have this as a regular thing, and they racked up a very large charge for ads that I did not know were running or were on, and did not provide me with any sales as well. And when I contacted customer service about it, it was very much a shoulder shrug. It was many years ago though, and I don't think that that's a reason that anybody should not be using that platform.
Well, and then also let me clarify with ads. I'm sure that was like a thing because you're like a relatively intelligent person, so I'm sure you know how to work your platform. I'm in a lot of Etsy groups, so I see a lot of people posting, and for the most part, Etsy did not just magically turn on ads. You set it up. Yeah. I have heard of that glitch way back in the past. I don't think that happens now. But the amount of people that say that, yeah. I'm like, no.
It's not a regular thing that happens now, and it was a glitch that was not, it wasn't like a glitch like I contacted them and said it was just mine glitched out of their hundreds of thousands of sellers. No, this was like a regular glitch of their system, and I found out when I got the bill, and I started looking for information and seeing what was going on and learned that it was not just my store.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
I've heard of that poorly. And yeah, they should have definitely waived things, I guess.
I mean, I don't know that they had a lot of room to do things any more than I did because, again, like, the money was not theirs.
Yeah, it wasn't 9 million sellers on Etsy like it is now. But as far as their ads go, there are two types of ads you can have going on Etsy. One, well, initially they're both by choice, but then one becomes not by choice when you make over a certain threshold of money. I don't know what it is now. When I first started, it was 10 grand in a year, and then it'll turn on. But before then, you could turn it on. But after 10 grand or whatever it is now, it'll automatically turn on. So there's two types of Etsy ads. There's Etsy ads that you like set yourself, and you could set like a dollar amount per day to spend. Mm-hmm. I've never gone over like $2 a day, and my ads make me money. If you're spending more in ads than you're making from ads, turn some of them off and or lower your budget. Also, if you're already selling on Etsy, turn ads on for the stuff that sells, not the stuff that doesn't sell. You want to like put your stuff in like winning.
Yeah, you want to set them up to be winners.
Yes. I see it's a pretty like common thing for somebody to turn on ads and try to like add their whole store, and you're just gonna yeah, well, if you have even 5 listings that you're setting only $1 a day for, that gives you only like 20 cents per listing per day, which is going to amount to like 2 or 3 clicks on it. If those don't convert, you've just wasted $1 a day. Whereas if you put all your ads into one of those listings, $1 for one thing, you have like a good few chances. So, you know, prioritize what you're going to advertise. Don't advertise your whole store.
It's a really good point. For Shopify, you would have to, it's not complicated, but it's definitely a multi-step process to turn on ads, and you have to connect it with outside outsources like Google. So whereas Etsy automatically integrates, Etsy automatically integrates and does have like the Google to like outsource to, that's the only way you can do for Shopify, because Shopify is not a platform in itself that brings in traffic or customers. Shopify is a platform that is hosting your website. So they're helping you run the most efficient website possible. Everything else is up to you. And some people, they don't want to take those steps, or they're not at a place in their business where it makes sense to them, and that is okay. There comes a point in your business where it makes a lot more sense to be branded and known only for you and not associated with another website.
And that's where what I mean when I say Etsy's like a good place to start. You can definitely outgrow Etsy. And as far as the Google ads go, that's the other kind of ads that Etsy has. So there's actual Etsy ads that are only shown within the Etsy platform to people. And then there's off-site ads, which you can turn on and off yourself unless you make over whatever the threshold is, 10 grand. I think now it might be 15 grand, but I could have just made that up. I'm not lying. But if you make over 10 grand in a year, at least at that time, it turns on automatically. And the thing that people don't like about that is not only is it automatic, there's a 15% fee that you pay on offsite ads. So if you're at that threshold and or have turned it on for yourself, you need to account for at least 15% extra that's going to somewhere else besides your pocket.
It adds up really quickly, and that is where they open the way for glitches, because it turns on itself after a while, which
once you hit that threshold, you are automatically enrolled in it. And that's just smart on Etsy's side, honestly, because you've got the revenue. That 15% of your sale shouldn't be that bad. And if you're like in the real world on your own website doing Google ads, it's going to cost you about that to do them.
Well, that's
Google ads are very expensive.
They're literally trying to help you there. But it does open up room for like a coding error to happen very easily, or a bug to come in and change things, which is definitely not anything this podcast is about, but like it's definitely where some errors can come into play.
Yeah, I just see I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people who don't understand that they have offsite ads turned on and then have priced their item for like $5. It costs $4 to ship, and then they're mad that they get like a penny on the sale because it was from offsite ads. And they just paid 15% of their like $5 in revenue, and then spent the other $4 on shipping.
Yeah.
Sum it up. Etsy's good to start, but please read the handbook.
Well, yeah, you have to go through all the information before you determine a platform.
You'd be so surprised how many people don't read
Not at all
the
surprised.
transactions.
Not at all. So honestly, like, we don't even need a show of hands to say, like, at some point in time, we have done something and not read the instructions for it and gotten screwed over. And then we learned that you need to read the instructions. You need to go in detail, look for reviews. You need to get other people's perspective. I like Shopify a lot, which is why I promote it. And it's, again, one of those things that we don't get paid for. I'm not getting paid for it.
And I will say, if you're making like less than $100 a month in sales, you're probably only at Etsy level. If you're making more than that and you can afford like the $30 to $40 a month a fee that is associated with like having your own website. I think I pay like $33 a month for Squarespace. I don't know how much Shopify is, but that's at that point when it makes sense to have your own website on all of the internet, is if you're making consistent money, because it's going to be a consistent bill you get month over month over month, and it's at least $30 pretty much.
Well, and it's going to determine on your needs as well. So definitely profit-wise, that's when you know you need to build further, but that's also going to tell you when you need to be on certain platforms or to be selling in different ways as well. So Shopify and Squarespace are good places to use if you sell at markets, because they both have on their platform, they have the ability to run cards and actually do sell straight from their platform that integrates into your billing and your information, and so that you can keep everything in one place.
And if you have like a Square card reader, it can connect to both like your Squarespace store, I'm pretty sure, and definitely your Shopify store, so it can keep track of your inventory. So if you sell it at an event, you're not going to be able to also sell it online, because it's going to account for that being sold, which is good, because if you make a lot of like, one-off pieces that you can't duplicate, you definitely don't want to sell it in person and then have someone buy it online, but you can't actually give it to them.
Yeah. Shopify also does have its own included card reader, and it does automatically connect over to your website and onto its own, like, in person. It's a point of sale thing, and you can also do a register with it that you can integrate into the system. So it has a lot of room for that, and to keep track of what's going on with your inventory. It also has a system in the back end that breaks down how much you're actually making per piece. So it has you break down per part per piece, and can tell you how much you are actually profiting for. So like, it has a lot of range in it, but it has been a growing process for them, and so something that it might not have had 5 or 6 years ago, it may have now, and it integrates into other apps, which is great when you're bringing traffic over.
Yeah, not to interrupt. I'm sorry. My issue with it is so robust that if you're like a noob, don't know what you're doing, it can be very overwhelming. That's not to say that there's not resources to explain it, but as somebody who's been on other like selling platforms before, Squarespace. I found it really confusing just for like the average person. It feels like it'd be like a lot to take in.
On the note of Shopify, I do understand it is very robust. It is a lot. It's one of the reasons why I answer questions on my Whatnot channel. It's one of the things I use my live videos for. I talk about what you can do with Shopify, why it's so accessible, the different apps that integrate into it, and how it can benefit your business. But I also acknowledge that this is not a platform that brings you traffic. You bring traffic to this platform.
Yes, and that's going to be true for like any like website builder thing. When you exist
Posting
on the
platform.
whole, whether it's GoDaddy, Squarespace, Shopify, not Spotify. That's different. Wix websites, you know, just anything that you can like build a website or host a website. When you exist on the whole of the internet, you're in complete and total control over doing all of your own marketing to get people to land on that. And if anybody lands on it organically from Google, that has to do with your SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is a whole video in and of itself. But people think of how many things you go to the internet for. People don't just go to the internet to shop. So that makes it harder. But then on the other hand, whereas people go to Etsy to shop, there is still that competition. You still have to be familiar with SEO and how that works. And, you know, it just is easier. You're like a bigger fish in a smaller pond, whereas on the whole of the internet, you're a very tiny fish in a very big pond.
Well, yeah, and something to keep in mind when you're doing things like search engine optimization and shopping, when you're an independent platform and you're a handmade business, they're like controversial within each other. And even though I enjoy the platforms, I think it's a good use of your resources and branding. When you're a handmade business and you're on Etsy, you're in competition, so to speak, with the other creators, but not in a large sort of way. You're not in competition with those bigger sellers. So on Etsy, Jacki's not in competition with Michael's or Joann's. On Etsy, I would not be in competition with larger distributors of jewelry and manufactured jewelry. On the World Wide Web, that's not the case. You are in a marketing competition with them.
With the whole of the internet.
Yeah, because they market with these same tools that you're marketing with. The big difference you would have is handmade, and it really depends on how you want to brand your business. Which is, again, another whole separate video.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and really it's good that you guys are here like preparing yourself for it. But it's, even though like we're building like parts of our businesses on educating people about running a business, some of it you really only like learn from like being in it, doing it,
seeing it. You understand. It'll be like this click moment where you're like, that's what they're talking about, that's what they're saying.
What it comes down to for picking the platform that's right for you, whether you're going, and I guess I didn't even talk about Squarespace. Why I like Squarespace personally over Shopify is, in my experience personally, and now this is not going to be true for everybody, the customer service side for Squarespace felt better to me. I started way back when with Squarespace when it was just like a blogging website platform, because that's one major difference between Shopify, I keep wanting to call it Spotify, Shopify and Squarespace, is Shopify started as like an e-commerce platform and you can now blog on it too. Whereas Squarespace started as like a blogging website platform, but then they integrated like e-commerce stuff onto it. Mm-hmm. But now they both do both. But I started with, you know, blogging. So it just kind of like grew with me. And it's very drag and drop. And I'm like familiar with its interface, whereas I was not familiar with Shopify.
And Shopify has grown to be a lot more integrative and user-friendly. There are a lot of people who are experts on Shopify. You can become an expert on Shopify. Shopify has its own academy that it will put you through for no cost. It really depends on how much deep diving you want to go into.
So, at this point, you might be overwhelmed with information and thinking like maybe you can't do it, or maybe you shouldn't do it, or maybe like you feel like you're not one of those people who can. And so the next episode we're going to do is on imposter syndrome, because a lot of business owners, especially early on, deal with that. And part of that comes from information overload, when you have people like us talking to you using words you don't understand, citing like platforms and things that you've never heard of as far as businesses go. It can make you feel kind of inept,
out of your league, or like, wow, this is a lot more than I signed up for, and I don't know if I'm able to do this.
Yeah, so we're going to address that, because I just want to let you know there's even more people out there that know more than us. So we even still deal with it as like experienced business owners from time to time. And it is just a fact that most everyone at some point will go through it in their business. So we wanted to get an episode about it out of the way early on, so you know that you're like not alone and like you have the right to feel the feels, and we're hopefully going to help you through it.
Yeah, so. Not everybody knows what it's called, but a lot of people experience it, so
yes.
I think that's what we're going to handle in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night.
Okay. I don't know if you want to read that. I've got thoughts. They're probably different than what I wrote.
Okay. So,
your turn. But as far as their ads go, there are two types. Two types of ads you can have.
Yes.
Hey, you want some Subway?
Sure.
Maybe.
Okay. My phone is dead, so I can't message you.
Okay. Veggie, Italian urban cheese, oil and vinegar.
You just want to message it to me?
On your dead phone?
Well, I'm going to charge it in the van. I'm going to charge it in the van on the way there.
Yeah. What do you want from Subway? This chair is so dangerous to lean back in. It will let you flip out of it, I'm convinced.
It will, yeah. It's mildly broken.
So I don't think we came to any sort of resolution on who's going and what. I'll be back. I don't know what I was talking about. Full disclosure, the camera died and or overheated.
I'm pretty sure we're going to edit like 90% of the stuff out.
Maybe we need to like lean together.
I don't think that's... We are like oddly far away. You have the camera angle off because we used to be able to see a little bit on both sides.
Yeah, well, I had to take batteries out of it like 12 times and move it, and every time I screw it back on, it's in a different position.
It is, yeah. So on the note as far as Shopify goes, I do understand.
Like I'm really far in front of you. Okay, on the note of Shopify. Does that count as buy? I had to do something.